Yes, the Main Street Project, they provide essential services to the most vulnerable here in Winnipeg. And coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, we're going to be learning about what they've been doing to basically change up and switch up their services due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're also going to be speaking with their executive director later on in the show. In the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about some of their food and essential services. They have a market for that and some of the changes that they've been doing there. And we're also going to be speaking with some of their fundraisers and talk about how some of their fundraising initiatives for 2020 have been changed slightly because of COVID-19. So we're going to be learning a lot about them. MainStreetProject.ca if you want to check them out online. And we'll be hearing from representatives from the Main Street Project throughout the show. The Main Street Project has been serving the most vulnerable people here in Winnipeg since the 1970s. Joining us today here on CTV Morning Live is their Director of Transitional Housing as well as other transitional emergency shelter services. We do have Adrienne Dudek here today. Good morning, Adrienne.
Good morning.
Now, can you tell us about how some of your operations have been affected by COVID-19, the pandemic, and also just in regards to how the reactions have been from the community?
Well, I think first and foremost, the need for social distancing was seen just across all of our environments in our own lives, as well as in our professional lives and specific to emergency shelter. So with a lot of support from the provincial government and the federal government and some other funding bodies, as well as private donors, we were able to expand our services in a time where everybody else was ramping down and figuring out how to do things differently. We had to move full speed ahead and provide more space for people. We had traditionally slept between 65 and 80 people in about 2,300 square feet. And in the development of our Mitchell's project as a COVID response, in amidst developing that, we were also able to utilize a building at 190 Disraeli. So that's 78,000 square feet that we're able to turn into overnight sleep services and daytime drop-in for what we used to see 80 people, now almost 200.
That's amazing. And we're hearing something about your community diversion team. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so traditionally and since 2018, we've been on the road overnight as the city's response to working with people who are rough sleeping in encampments. And our community diversion team is made up of caseworkers and peer outreach workers and frontline integrated support staff who go out and meet people where they're at. So at any point, 24 hours a day, specific to COVID right now, they're working with people in the community. There's how do we meet their needs? How do we also provide education in a time where, we have to just go out and be with people where they are. And that includes information about COVID. That includes accessing everything that we would need in our daily lives. And that's what our community diversion team does out in the community.
And the summertime can be really hot. What protocols do you have in place for hot summer days?
Well, we work as part of a larger strategy to end homelessness with the Extreme Weather Response Committee. So that's in cold and in heat. So it's a group of agencies who get together. And through community diversion specifically, we hand out a lot of water. We provide rides back to shelter. We provide rides to safe spaces for people. And just meeting people where they're at. For a lot of reasons, people don't come in to different institutional facilities. And so how do we then make sure that their health and well-being, especially in extreme weather, is also met when in the community.
Adrienne Dudek, thank you so much for joining us from the Main Street Project. You can learn more at mainstreetproject.ca. Yes, we are going to be hearing from them. The Main Street Project provides some valuable services for people in the community, specifically the most vulnerable here in Winnipeg. They provide everything from emergency housing to emergency shelter to transitional shelters and food as well. So this hour, we're going to be learning more about their food banks and also what they're doing to transition from, COVID-19 and how that is affecting their operations. We're also going to be speaking with their executive director next hour, and we're going to be learning about some of their fundraising initiatives as they are a charity after all. That is the Main Street Project. If you want to learn more about them, you can head to mainstreetproject.ca.
Very valuable information this morning. We look forward to hearing more about the good work that they do. Thanks for that, Tara.
The Main Street Project provides essential services to many people in Winnipeg, the most vulnerable in our community. Joining us today here on CTV Morning Live is their Director of Development, Anna. We have Anna Ziprick joining us. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Now, we've been hearing a lot over the last hour about how you guys have been changing for the better some of your services due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Could you expand on that?
Sure. Well, speaking of expanding, I think a lot of what we've heard about during the pandemic is things that have shut down or things that have closed down or limited their services. And Main Street Project, we found ourselves in a situation where we had to rapidly expand our services in a very short time. So you heard from Adrian about our new emergency shelter and drop-in services that we are running at 190 Disraeli Freeway. Another critical program that we got up and running in a very short time is an isolation space. So this is an apartment building that was loaned to us from Manitoba Housing. Had been vacant for 2 years. We realized that very quickly we needed to find a place where we could safely isolate people that were experiencing extreme or absolute homelessness. So if you or I are told to get tested or you're symptomatic, you're told to isolate at home. That's difficult to do when you don't have a home. So when individuals that are have symptoms or get tested and need a place to isolate while they await their test results, they certainly couldn't come back to the shelter community, and in some cases they didn't have adequate housing. So we set up this 39-suite apartment building that is currently staffed by nurses on site. Individuals are transported straight from where they get tested to a place where they can safely isolate.
Now, the organization relies heavily on donations from the community. Could you talk about that and tell us how people can get involved and donate?
Yeah, sure. We got the apartment building set up rapidly with donations from the community, furniture companies, individuals. So this space, it's government funded, but we've received funding for another 90 days to keep it operational, because obviously we still need it. And again, everything that Main Street Project does relies on donations from the community. So financial donations, donations of clothing and hygiene products. Everybody's stepped up in a really big way. We're just hoping that they're going to continue to do so, because even though the crisis feels like it's tapering down a bit, it's still very much a real concern for us.
Anna Ziprick, their Director of Development from the Main Street Project. You can also get their charitable number at themainstreetproject.ca, so you can write that off in your taxes. The Main Street Project offers essential services to the most vulnerable living here in Winnipeg. Joining us today on CTV Morning Live is their Food and Nutrition Manager. We do have Tamara Wolf joining us on the program. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi.
Tamara, we wanted to talk about your food bank and specifically how you have been administering it through the times of COVID-19. We've been hearing about how it used to be a grocery-style food bank. It's moved to a hamper program. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so before COVID, it was a grocery store model where our clients could come in and shop for their essentials. And then when the pandemic hit, we realized that it wasn't as safe to do it that way. So with helping Winnipeg Harvest, we went to a hamper style instead. So clients could still come to the door, and then we would provide them. But as of last week, we have actually returned to the grocery store model. We have looked to our local grocery stores to see how they are maintaining physical distancing and safety precautions, and we've done similar things. And it was really great to be back.
Now, are you guys having lineups like the grocery stores as well, or how they used to have it back in the day?
No, so there's always a little bit of a lineup, but luckily next door, Lighthouse Mission, they start at 9 o'clock serving coffee, so we have community members hanging out and drinking some coffee before they can come in. We do have a number system, so they know that, if they're 1 to 10, that they'll be served pretty soon. If they're a little bit later, like 20, then they might go for a walk and come back. So it's not a huge crowd of people that are around.
And we're curious to know, has it become busier since COVID-19 struck, or has it actually been more quiet down at the food bank?
Our numbers have actually gone down a little bit, and we're speculating because a lot of places have popped up to serve our community more because they see that there's a higher need right now. So Winnipeg Harvest actually told us that now in the north end of there is food bank on every single corner since the pandemic hit. So the community is definitely stepped up. So we are seeing lower numbers, which is fantastic.
And our final question for you is in regards to some of the most needed items that you guys are needing for the Main Street project.
So anything is welcome. We love anything non-perishable. If you go to our website, call, set up an appointment. But most needed are canned proteins. So anything, tuna, chicken, things like that are our highest needed items for sure.
And you can learn more at mainstreetproject.ca. The Main Street Project here in Winnipeg provides essential services to people in the community, the most vulnerable among us. Joining us today here on CTV Morning Live is their communications coordinator. We do have Cindy Titus on the program. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Now, we wanted to chat about some of your fundraising efforts in 2020 and how has that changed and been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, right now we're really focusing on donations for the summertime. So we really we did a big water drive recently. Over the past month or so, we were looking for about 20,000 bottles of water. And the public, Winnipeg and beyond, Manitobans are very generous, and we were able to double our goal for water bottles. And then due to COVID-19, we had to stop accepting clothing donations just to ensure that we're keeping our community members safe and our staff safe. And that's now put us in a position where we need to start accepting clothing donations again because we've essentially run out of clothing items.
So how can people donate to your organization?
Yeah, so if people are looking to donate clothing items, hygiene products, towels, and footwear, they can send us an email to arrange an appointment. And again, we're just doing our best to keep everybody safe. We recognize that COVID numbers in Manitoba are very low right now, and safety is very likely. But we're just going to do our best to kind of manage everything well and keep everyone safe. So if anyone is interested in donating clothing items, footwear, hygiene products, and towels, they can email donations@mainstreetproject.ca to make an appointment.
Thank you so much, Cindy Titus. She is the communications coordinator down at the Main Street Project here in Winnipeg, helping to serve the most vulnerable in the community. I'm Tara Lopez.
All right, our Tara Lopez joins us one last time this morning, and we've been finding out how much we can all be helping an organization that helps so many in our community.
That is the Main Street Project. They really have gone out of their way to help those since the 1970s, the most vulnerable here in Winnipeg. And joining us today here on CTV Morning Live is their Executive Director, Rick Lees. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
We're doing great. Now, we wanted to talk about some of your recent expansions, particularly to the Mitchell Fabrics building. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that. We acquired that space a couple of years ago with the intention of doing a pretty major development. And with COVID-19, the federal government stepped up with a $2 million grant to do a 5 to 6 week renovation. And within about a week from now, we'll open that facility with up to 120 beds with a particular medical focus for folks who are homeless or experiencing homeless and temporary housing issues.
Now that is huge. In terms of staffing, are you looking at hiring more people? Are you looking for more volunteers?
We're always looking for more volunteers. We've been working actually since we started the work on that project. And by the way, a big shout out to Boxall Construction and the myriad of crews that have just invested time, 2 shifts a day to make this happen over 5 to 6 weeks. But that's also given us some time to look at staffing. And so we're in pretty good shape for when we open to have a team in there ready to go.
Also wanted to ask you about how your operations are a little bit different in the summertime than they are in the winter, and what you guys are working on currently.
Well, of course, summertime brings its own challenges. We've had a tremendous heat wave right now, and I think you spoke to some of my colleagues earlier about that. So it's about trying to create safe spaces for people to stay cool, much as in the winter it's trying to stay warm. A lot of space for the unsheltered folks has shrunk during COVID, as a lot of the public spaces have been unavailable, and so that's created limiting space. So the other purpose of the Mitchell building, our 190 Disraeli drop-in, is to provide places where people can go and be out of the heat, and also get good nutrition and support.
Rick Lee is the Executive Director of the Main Street Project. Thank you so much for filling us in on the latest and the greatest there on this valuable community service. You can learn more at mainstreetproject.ca.